Welcome to Toffee TV. It's the return of your comments. I'll be honest, I just sort of forgot about this show, and I was very busy because Baz was on holiday and stuff. So it's back. It is back. This is where we get your comments off our videos on YouTube immediately after the game, whether that be my instant reaction, Baz's instant reaction, or his player ratings, and we give you the chance to get your voice heard on the show. And here we go. The first one up is from Even OG. He says, don't think Klassen, Rooney and Siggs can all play at once, all play the same position of zero pace. Disgusted by Koeman's lineup and tactics this week. Awful. Martina clearly has Koeman's nudes or some shit. He's not even good enough to ride the bench. Yeah, let's stick on the topic of Klassen, Rooney and Sigurdsson all being in the same team. Now, obviously all these players were bought in the summer, and you'd like to have thought, or you'd like to think, the manager has an idea of how he wants to play all these players. Now, that isn't evident yet, but hopefully that sort of starts rearing its head sooner rather than later. Maybe they weren't all bought to play in the team at once, and it's just that at the moment he's trying to get them all bedded into the team, and then once he's got them fit and bedded in, then maybe he'll use them in different ways. That's what I'm hoping anyway. Moving on, John Hill says, for God's sake, settle down. There are a lot of new players in this team. It's going to take time. Koeman out is just ridiculous. Well, no one at this show, John, is Koeman out, and you might be talking about other people. That's fair enough. You're right, it does take time to settle, but unfortunately the Premier League's very unforgiving and doesn't give you time. So yes, you are right in everything you say. There are a lot of new players, and sometimes bringing a lot of new players in can have a negative effect. I think it's how you settle them in. Do you play them all at once? Do you bring players in at different times? Everton have got the Europa League to help with this as well, and I just think that maybe playing Sigurdsson, Rooney and Klassen all at the same time might have been a bit of a bad move, or certainly all seem to be in the same position. I mean, on Saturday he could have played Rooney up front, like with another striker, really like a real front two. It never felt like that. It felt like Rooney was always dropping deeper. He could have left Klassen on the bench and played him on Thursday night, but he played them all at once, and I think we've seen the consequence of that. Players not fully sure of what each other was doing, and that will take time. Gary Hankey says, totally agree, Ped. John Joe Kenny should be starting in the absence of Seamus. If Martina wasn't good enough for the Saints, why is he all of a sudden good enough for us? I remain to begin to find Williams too. Koeman should have kept Klassen on the bench and started with Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Ramirez or Niasse, as you say. Go with and use what we've got. I mean, obviously I think John Joe Kenny should be playing right back. I understand why he started Martina over Holgate. He started because he wanted to attack. But Martina is criminal at defending, criminal. Watched the game back before, and for the second and third goals, he's just criminal. And I know I heard a lot of people saying, well, he had two men to mark. Well, I never seen him have two men to mark. Certainly on the third goal he's got one man to mark, and he doesn't bother. They played with wing back, so really he only had one man to deal with, and he never dealt with them. I just think he's a really some of his crosses in the box were fine, good. Unfortunately, we don't have any centre forward to put the ball in the back of the net. But if you can't defend, then against Williams as well had a very poor start to the season, and I think with him playing the two international games, I think Phil Jagielka should have been starting. It's as simple as that. Graham Gill says, it's a matter of time before Niasse comes in and saves the day. How much longer will Koeman ignore him? Give the lad a chance, for Mark's sake. I think he is giving him a chance. He bombed them out. Let's not forget, he bombed them out after watching him a couple of times. Thought he could get rid of him. Thought he wouldn't have to deal with the problem. But he is going to have to deal with the problem. Now, he is giving him a chance. He's letting him train with the first team. Let's see how he gets on with the first team. He played for the under-23s yesterday, scoring a couple of goals, setting one up. He really should have had a hat-trick. So that's the most he can do in that, really. He's proved he's easily good enough for that level, and he's proved he's okay at Premier League. He's got a chance by training with the first team. Let's see how that develops. And I think if he does okay in training, against good defenders, he'll be given. I do believe he'll be given a chance, and then we'll see if he's good enough. I'm yet to be convinced that he's good enough, but the only way he can convince me is he comes in the Premier League and shows something that he didn't show, the first time round. So we'll wait and see. Jem Mace says, is right on the assessment, Ped. Koeman is an arrogant manager to me who is willing to ignore the obvious because he's made a decision and constantly sees his own mistakes. Weird, I've heard and read so many Blues comments on how he should be playing Lookman and Morales, or for me Vlasic before Morales, because there's no width at all, and with the middle of the park being loaded with CMs trying to work out what they should be doing, this would alleviate this problem. It's there for all to see, but soft ass Koeman. Now, over the last few years, we've got all our width from the fullbacks, and he did try that at the weekend. He did try with Martina to be the width. That was tried. On the other side, the width was trying to come from Sigurdsson in front of Baines, and linking up those two players. So I think he tried. That was his width. It just didn't work. Martina did get forward in the first 20-25 minutes. He got forward and put some good balls into the box. Our best chance come from a 1-2 between Martina and Rooney, leading to a shot just wide from Sandro. But you're right, that's how we got our width. So I expect it to come from fullback. Now, he did give Lookman, he did play him in the European games, and he didn't do too well. I don't think Lookman's a winger. He's not a winger. Morales, I don't think he's got the pace, and Vlasic has only just come into the club. So personally, I think full-back is where you get your width from nowadays. I think the game is played in the middle of the park, and that's where the width comes from. And you've seen that from Spurs at the weekend. 3 at the back, which a lot of teams are looking to do now. You've just got to have the right personnel. But if you play 3 at the back, your full-back, your wing-backs have got to be attacking. And we tried that at Chelsea and we didn't have attacking. So he's got to get wing-backs or full-backs that were willing to go forward. John Joe Kenny. Need I say more? Amber Film TV says Martina was our best player. He was getting crosses in, running forward and making things happen. Sandro and Klassen were poor. Amber Film TV, I will disagree with you on this point. I think Martina was okay for the first 20 minutes, but he is not a good player. He is a very, very average player who, in some games, like Europa League games and, dare I say, League Cup games, might be okay. But on Saturday against good opposition was awful. His positioning is terrible. It really is terrible. He doesn't have a clue where to stand. He really doesn't know where to stand. All he did was moan at other players. And I understand the argument that he had 2 men on him sometimes, but pick one of them. Pick the man you're supposed to be marking, which was their wing back, and go to him. He is criminal for letting crosses get into the box, and I know that's not a new thing at Everton, but yeah, he's criminal. Now, he did okay going forward at times early on, but that doesn't mean you've had a good game. It really doesn't. And as while John Joe Kenny's at the club, and for me is a more suited player to the way we play. He's tenacious in his defending, and he can get forward and put crosses in. Seen one yesterday for the under-23, setting the ass up straight away. He is just, for me, it goes back to arrogance and goes back to the manager bringing a player in that we didn't really need anyway, because he's just blocking John Joe Kenny's path as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I just can't be having him. Return Flight says, I really want to stay, but Koeman's looking more and more like a fraud for each game. We would have finished in the bottom half last season if it wasn't for Rom's goals, taking the top off teams. Koeman's tactics and team selections are fucking negative and disgusting. Atalanta on Thursday could be a real disaster, and Man United could be even worse than today. Martina is a fucking joke. The last 20 minutes of the first half was enough to justify him not playing another league game. I agree. I agree with a lot of that. I agree with that. Last season, Romelu Lukaku's goals got us out the shit a lot, but I think that was to help. That's fair enough. That was to help build the team. Now this season we're trying to build the team again, but we don't have the goals, so that's where it's going to be a lot harder. I do believe he's trying to build a team, and it's going to take a lot longer than 4 Premier League games. But unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of those goals to get us wins. We've got the lowest shots on target, so that doesn't help either. So it's going to be a real testing time over the next few weeks. It's going to test fans' patience a lot. We need wins in the Europa League and the League Cup if they're not coming in the Premier League to satisfy us, because we have spent a lot of money and we expect not an instant return, but just to see signs. So we'll wait and see. Neil Stiles says, I don't care what anyone says, I honestly miss Moyes and don't understand why the vast majority of fans are content with Koeman. He's had over a year and there's been no improvement. I don't agree with that necessarily, over no improvement. I think there was an improvement last season, and this season is about making another leap. So far this season it's been hard and it's been slow, and it is hard to figure out how all these players fit in. Now, as I've said before, it's up to the manager to get these players to fit into a system that he's envisaged. If he doesn't and he's just bought them like that, then it won't work. It simply won't work, and it will have been buying players for the sake of buying. I'm hoping that's not the case. I hope he's got a plan. I hope that plan, if it did involve a target man, it needs a target man in Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So we'll wait and see on that one. I love Moyes, by the way. And Max Walting says, I'm getting frustrated that Koeman is constantly getting it wrong. Most Everton fans could make a better team selection than he has this season. Also, why is Koeman buying 3 attacking mids costing 70 million with Rooney 150 grand a week? People banging on about how our good window. We are significantly weaker than last season, going to be a bottom half finish for us. We are not significantly weaker. We have a better squad than last season. We just don't have a goal scorer who can score 25 goals a season. Those strikers cost £100 million and want to sign for Champions League teams. That's the problem. Maybe we should have been looking a little bit lower down at a player that can progress into one of them. The name that springs to mind at the moment is Chris Woods, who went to Burnley. But if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago about signing him, I would have just laughed at you. But now you're looking at him going, oh, maybe we missed out. That's not our job. That's their job as scouts to find those players. That's what they've got to do. They didn't. For the squad, I think we're a better squad. We just don't have the goals, and that's what wins games at the end of the day. You need, as a midfielder or an attacking midfielder, you need someone in front of you making intelligent runs, someone to hold the ball up. I've said this before. Without pace, you need someone up front to hold the ball up, allow the rest of the team to get forward. We don't have that at the moment. We'll have to wait and see. Paul Smith says, we get what we deserve, buying a lot of absolute ordinaries and selling anyone with ability. Fans have lapped up the signings too, calling Keane class before we played anyone class, calling for Klassen to come in for Barkley, slagging Lukaku, the list goes on, while these productivity Duracell bunnies are running their hearts out with no effect. Real class players are coasting past them every game. Again, I agree on some points, I disagree on others. I think Keane is a good player. I think at the weekend he was stuck between Ashley Williams and Martina. Football's all about partnerships. Klassen coming in for Barkley. Well, Barkley hasn't signed a contract, which may be a different story on its own, but he hasn't signed the contract. He's also injured, so there's that as well, but he hasn't signed the contract, and that came from last season. Maybe Klassen was bought because the manager expected him to go in the summer, which he did say expected him to go. So, and I don't think Klassen is actually his replacement. I think Sigurdsson's more his replacement. So I don't think they're ordinary. I just don't think they've fit together as of yet. Stuart Sluck says, Ped, please do an hour on Martina. The last 5 minutes made me laugh. Just what I needed after the result today. I could do an hour on Martina, but that would be very unfair. I've made my feelings known about the player, and it's not about the player as such. It's about the manager playing him over a player I see as our future. And where people have spoke about before about Barkley and someone like Delafeu or even John Stones, the manager selling youth. For some people, maybe this is the same with me. For John Joe Kenny, I see John Joe Kenny as a player that we have, he's an Evertonian that we have created in the academy, and he should be in the first team. And when players like Martina block players like him, I find that irresponsible and frustrating as a fan. And if John Joe Kenny's career as an Everton player is blocked by someone like Martina, then that for me is a big warning sign. And I've seen this before. If a manager can't get out the way of himself to put a player in, he deserves to be playing. But Koeman did this last year with Tom Davies, and eventually got him in, and eventually Tom was great. But again, look at this season. Tom's progression being stopped because of us buying players in and around this position. We'll have to wait and see. Callum96 says, I'm not going to write any players off either, but for me, Sandro worries me. I don't know what he does. He shouldn't have started. It should have been Calvert-Lewin. When that guy comes on, he annoys some of the best centre-backs in the league, i.e. Company and David Luiz, and really causes problems. Why is he not starting? Koeman's got to improve the team selection. Sharpers, who's going to lose the dressing room. I agree with Dominic Calvert-Lewin should start. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I think, should start every game because he's the only out-and-out centre-forward number 9 that we have. Sandro is going to take time to bed in, and I think he'll need games to bed in. And I've seen little signs the weekend that what I like. I also seen little signs that I don't like him not breaking his neck to get into the box when the ball was coming in. He seems to be like hanging around the edge of the box. The problem is we're trying to bed in 4 or 5 players all at once in the same games, and I don't think that's going to work. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin should definitely start games of football. And there you have it. They are your comments for the Spurs game. Thanks for getting in touch. Always get in touch with us in the comments. If your comments hasn't been used this week, I'm sure it'll be used next week. Just get your thoughts in. That's what we want. Communication is key. Thanks for watching Toffee TV as ever. If you haven't subbed to Patreon yet, make sure you go and do it. Thanks for watching. Keep commenting, and I'll see you later.